Howdy, friends. Welcome to Repertoire. This is a show about the ideas, experiences, and personal philosophies that shape who we are as chefs and cooks. I'm Sammy Mansour, Michelin award-winning chef, cookbook author, and food activist. My life revolves around food and cooking, and I love geeking out about the craft and the culture. In each episode, I travel somewhere new to sit down with chefs and food personalities on their turf for honest, unfiltered conversations. We talk shop, we go deep, we cook. Today, I'm on James Island, a sea island off the coast of South Carolina. Which brings me to my guest today. Chef Shaun Brian is the owner-operator of Cutico, a fishmonger meets restaurant that's become a beacon for sustainable seafood lovers. Shaun's one of the most knowledgeable cats I know when it comes to the ocean's bounty, whether we're talking about how to source it, break it down, or treat it right on the plate. We first brushed shoulders in Boston over a decade ago, and since then, Shaun's carved out a lane that's unmistakably his. His work is rooted in transparency and traceability, and he wears every hat, cultivating relationships with local fishers, supplying chef-driven restaurants with top-tier coastal treasures, and whipping up funky specials at his shop. At this point, he could probably fillet a grouper cheek blindfolded. Shaun, thanks for having us in your home. Welcome to Repertoire.
Thank you. It's nice to have you all here at my humble abode.
All right, dude. So to jump into this, the last time we talked, we kind of did a confessional about our younger days with fast food late night binging, and you mentioned this Wendy's hot chili seasoning that I've never fucking heard of. So of course I went through. Also got myself a orange flavored Coke Zero
in your pocket. I could have had this on my avocado.
Dude, tell me why you love this, because I've never had it. I want you to give me a tasting.
Well, first just taste it,
Okay.
and then I think I won't have to tell you anything. Just
All right, I'm gonna do
I want some too.
the chef's kiss, where it's clear. That's weird. Wow, that's unique.
Tastes like a lot of cumin,
Yeah,
which I love.
it's like almost way too salty.
Yeah, but it's a topper. It's like you add it to your chili if you want like
Yeah,
a little more chili flavor, I guess.
it's fucking chili concentrate.
Yeah, it's literally like the fat off the top of the chili that's like been refined and like streamed out and added some MSG to probably.
Yeah,
Are
except
there
the first
ingredients on
two
here?
ingredients are
never-
water and corn syrup.
Yeah, distilled vinegar, natural flavors. That's where they get everything.
Yeah,
That's the secret.
the xanthan gum gives it a really nice mouthfeel.
I wish it had a little bit more. I could do dots on a plate with it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Ooh.
I mean, you put that on a burger from them, it's like a chili burger without
Yeah.
chili, or you put it on your baked potato, or you put it in your ketchup to dip your fries in.
Yeah.
I've never tried it on a Frosty,
Okay.
but
All
that
right.
that seems like the natural next step.
It does. So we're gonna have to do that. And I will say, as somebody who hasn't eaten at a Wendy's since high school, and I used to fuck with Wendy's hard, I will give you my completely unbiased opinion on this. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'd say it fucking slaps pretty hard.
It sort of gives you a lot of ideas too, because it makes me think of like sort of what we think in terms of how they created it. Like they're just like skimming the fat off of it and like infusing it in like vinegars or something. But it's just like, I like the idea of something liquid, I guess, that tastes like a whole bowl of something or
It's
like
crazy.
a whole dish.
It's like this extractive concentrate. There's a ton of cumin. It's very spicy compared to what I thought it would be. It's not overwhelmingly, but it's as spicy as like a Louisiana Crystal Red Hot sauce.
I have a problem being able to tell what spice levels are anymore. So I get help from other people on that.
Well, brother, you've got such an interesting story right from your early days growing up on St. John, one of the U.S. Virgin Islands,
Boop, boop.
which is pretty remote. You had 8 siblings and y'all foraged and fished as a way of life. This is really fascinating to me, and I just kinda wanna hear what you wanna tell me about that.
So a lot of people think that, the US Virgin Islands is sort of this tropical paradise that they vacation to. So, like, most people's perception when they talk to me is sort of like, "Oh, that must have been amazing," you know? And it was. It definitely was. It made me who I am today. But it's not an easy life. And I didn't grow up in a villa on the edge of a beach, you know? We cut our own path literally with machetes and built from the scratch with our hands. I mean, I've been helping my family building our properties up down there since I was 4 years old, like taping pipe shut with duct tape or doing twist ties on rebar. And, my dad had a sailboat, so kinda he was there running a jewelry store. My mom moved down to follow him. She was a midwife, so that sort of became a natural, um, place for her to help with is delivering, like, a ton of the kids on the island. Um, and I went to public school, which most kids didn't. A lot of the kids that, like, moved from the States or something went to, like, private schools down there, and my stepdad because my mom and my, dad separated, and my stepdad was actually a Catition man from St. Kitts, Starbo, and it was really cool and such a treasured part of my life, even though there was a lot of, like, changes in it, that were hard for me at the time, but it taught me about the culture. It taught me I was raised, since I was 4 as in a West Indian house. So, lots of, very conservative ideologies around like how to dress, how to act, how to handle food, don't put your face over pots, don't dip your finger and stuff like that.
Why don't you put your face over pots?
Something could fall off your face or out of your nose or something. It was kind of peculiar, and
Hmm.
I can't say that I adhere to that one, but I like, like I love tasting from my hand, but take the spoon, drop a little bit right in there in the palm, and then that's like sort of a way that I can get the best sensory on it for me. Maybe because of nostalgia, but you know, on my dad's sailboat, he was like a big sailing guy, but he was also like kind of hardcore, like, a little rough on us. Like he was very demanding of perfection on the sailboat all the time. And so learned a lot about water and just respect and how to boat and fishing off dad's boat, grilling at the end of the day, whatever we spearfished or foraged,
What were you catching mostly?
everything. I mean, yellowtail snapper, kingfish, wahoo, mahi,
Wow.
lots of rock hind that we would spearfish, different different species of snappers, but
Cobia?
my no, not many cobia. My favorite was the rock hind because it was like a mini grouper that like were relatively easy to find in the shallows.
And when you
Um,
say mini, how like
like a
average weight?
pound.
Okay, 1 pound.
Yeah, like pound, 2 pounders is a big one. But they're like, I think some people, like, call them like, strawberry groupers up here, and they'll be, like, that size, but and then yellowtail snapper was my absolute favorite, like, growing up. Like, a lot it gets a bad rap when I'm, like, up here, people are like, "Oh, the vermilion beeliner is better," and they're all snappers, they're all delicious, But for
Yeah.
me, that yellowtail snapper, you need to eat it faster, but I always had it out of the water and ate it within, like, days, or that day usually, and it's super versatile, no issues, you could raw, ceviche, cooked, grilled, whatever, and, we
Were
ate
you
a
cook
lot of whole fish,
were
we
you
didn't.
cooking a lot? Or, like, what age did you start cooking?
So, growing up in the family so big, you know, I think my mom and my dad and my stepdad, they all worked a lot, and my stepmom too. So it was like a lot of kids around, especially during summer. And it was sort of like a fend for your own, but there was a lot of like, cooking for each other. Like the first stuff we like would mess around with was eggs because we didn't have a lot of different foods. We had like eggs, um, soy milk, mac and cheese, lots of veggies, but our main staple was like brown rice with every vegetable that was left over in the fridge or whatever it was, which when I was down there and I was younger, there wasn't a lot of grocery stores. Provisions were harder to source. Like nothing was of really great quality. There weren't farms everywhere. But we changed that and I was a part of that since 4 years old. I helped the only organic farm on St. John. I helped clear the property. I went to this funky hippie or earth school underneath her house and we gardened every day. And I then became a chef and purchased from Josephine's Organic Gardens and had her do stuff specifically for me. And, she's sort of like my mom. So I had a very close connection, but I was always interested in food. And because of those, like, really not being exposed to it or like my mom and dad's not really cooking a lot or being super talented at it, it sort of like gave me that drive to want to be able to cook and eat these things. And every time I get exposed to something, it would just like really send sparks flying. And then my stepmom's family started Progresso. Um, and so
The soup company?
yeah, well, actually, Italian sauce, gravy company first for tomato sauce was our main focus, but they got really well known for the soup company, and they sold it before it, like, got huge, but they built a solid company, they did well. And so she would garden and she would cook, and, she wasn't like this Italian Nona, but she would make, like, chicken broccoli pesto with gnocchi or pasta,
Mm.
and make like almost like a Sicilian style baked pizzas. Um, and you know, the first thing I made was like pasta sauce, and I sort of used the Progresso spaghetti sauce recipe to inspire my own. And then the second thing I made, was we didn't have, like, any good, like, Chinese food, like, no takeout, there wasn't any. I think there was a place in St. Thomas, but that was, like, a whole boat ride and another island that you had to go to, and you go there to, like, stock up on, like, y'all's equivalent of, like, Costco or Kmart. Back then, it was more like Kmart and, um, there's a
We're
KFC
okay,
over
yeah, I mean,
there.
like, Kmart, that's pretty gutter.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
but
even know
that was our, like, whatever y'all's fancies was. Like
if that was your okay. By the way, this episode is brought to you by Progresso, the chef's choice for doctoring up gravy on Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday gravy. And so because there was no Chinese restaurant, the second thing I really, like, made that I felt like I was, like, going down that rabbit hole was shrimp stir fry,
Mm.
and
Brown
that
like brown rice stir fry? Just
I
veggie?
think I made them get white rice. I was like, "I'm not a brown rice guy. Like, give me farro, I'm good with that."
'Cause you have, like, a good, touch of Asian flavors and techniques on your menu, and it makes sense flavor-wise how you bridge, but,
Yeah,
is
there
this
was a
just,
big
like
inspiration for me for, like, Japanese culture in general because from really young, I was trained in martial arts in, Shotokan, which is, like, a more traditional Japanese martial art. And 2, older gentlemen that served in, the military, learned it in Japan when they were stationed there, and they became senseis down there. They're also farmers in St. Thomas growing honey and stuff, so really cool guys, but they were sort of mentors for me, and that got me inspired about in terms of the culture, which naturally, when I went into cooking, led into, like, that technique of it too,
wow.
and butchery, but yeah, and the Caribbean in general is such a melting pot. I mean, you look at, you know, jerk seasoning and jerk chicken or something, and it's got soy in it, or,
Right.
there's,
Yeah, there's definitely, like, a Japanese, uh, inoculation of culture throughout a lot of the islands, all the way to Hawaii.
yeah, I think, every food item has a similar item for every culture. There's like a pickle in every culture. There's
I think that soy sauce is just so explosively delicious that, like, any
well,
culture that came across it was like, "Fuck, this is great. We're adding this to the cupboard."
like Worcestershire, that would be like
Yeah.
equivalent of soy if I would think about it like that.
Yeah.
Cassava syrup in the Caribbean, it's
Mhm.
like cassava molasses almost,
Mhm.
casa reap, they call it, and it's like our down island soy. It's actually pretty sick.
That sounds great. And the coconut, I don't know. Do you know about the coconut aminos? Is this something new due to health and dietary choices, or has this been around in the islands?
Well, it was around in my house, um,
Okay, so when you were growing up, you had
it
coconut
but
aminos.
it wasn't because of the it was, my mom was, like, such a pioneer and forefront for, like, organic and healthy and these sort of things that are wild trends today. Before like people like Andrew Wild, who started that movement, who, always wore Birkenstocks, like she was in it heavy from her midwifery and her and my dad's like hippie background of rainbow gatherings and stuff. And just her leaving America to go do her own thing in the Caribbean and build, a platform. And we lived in a tent for years and years.
S
And
Sorry to interrupt, but you rolled over something that I am completely unfamiliar with. What is a rainbow gathering?
oh, wow. Man, so Rainbow Gathering was like just a communal gathering of a ton of hippies that would come to like a location in the woods, and they would create a whole community center where everyone had certain parts that they would play in the community, and they'd stay out there for like weeks at time. And, it was just like half the people were naked or all of them.
Wow.
They probably still do them, but they're totally different now. This was like the real ones that they were going to, and, I think my older brother's a Rainbow Gathering baby, um, but, it's like I s my they have pictures of it, which growing up, I was like, "Oh, don't show me that." It was like, "What is all this?" Like, "Cool. Alright." So, Rainbow Gatherings. So, yeah, I don't know that I'm sure there's lots of, acid and weed and stuff like that going on there, and, they were
Mhm.
just doing their thing, doing their wavy movements.
Yeah,
So,
I love it.
yeah, so
Wow,
that
I mean, I'm glad I rolled back on that
but
because,
they had, like, vegan stuff there and,
yeah,
they're, like, making their own stuff and bartering, so they tried to, like, sort of, like, just slow down and revert and, like, appreciate life and put importance on connection and,
yeah.
there's a lot of things I've drawn from all sides of life that have been a huge influence for me, like, I can be sound in who I am, and I can, you know, be disciplined and structure, but yet I can also understand the balance between that and having other things to be free and loving
Mhm.
and caring and empathetic.
You're kind of dancing on the, like, spirituality, so to speak, connectedness with the planet and life.
I don't know if I think about it as spirituality. I think of it more as humanity, just like the human connection, the ingredients that get overlooked because we're so focused on the physical.
Mhm.
So not so much spiritual, but for some people maybe more.
I went to Burning Man in 2015, and it feels very much like a rainbow gathering of
Yeah,
sorts.
sort of like a clubby rainbow
Yeah,
gathering.
yeah, yeah, there's definitely some clubs there,
Yeah,
but then there's also just people in the desert without electricity or
yeah,
water that
yeah,
are bartering, and they're naked, and it's an interesting place because it's this city of 80,000 people that gets popped up, and there's actually something I've never heard anybody talk about, but from what I observed, there's literally a class system there that goes unacknowledged, where you have uber wealthy people helicoptering in these beautiful costumes, and then you have kids that just barely got the ticket and they're sleeping in a tent, not a RV,
yeah,
and
RV.
they have like fucking candy bars for their dinner, and like they're hovered over a trash barrel in the middle of the night with a trash barrel fire to stay warm. And it's wild to think about that in a place where the whole idea is to get away from that, it still exists.
Yeah, and I think from, like, when you look at, like, rainbow gatherings back in the, like, '70s or the '60s, it's like, think of the Beatles and, you know, there it was, like, at its purest, I think. We had this one board game that felt sort of like Monopoly, but it was called Community, and, like, didn't have all the societal structural restraints and elevations. Is more like how you could be a good community member. So, those things sort of gave me a good foundation, but
Wow.
then I had amazing, other sides of it where, like, in public school, I got to learn about a lot of, like, African, folk history, Anansi the spider. I sort of, like, went to this one public school that was sort of, like, recognized in a lot of ways for, like, furthering education into the depths of the US Virgin Islands, Guy H. Benjamin, amazing man, and I think just that really also created, like, this great foundation for respect, accountability, um, generosity, and really cool is in Coral Bay out on the peninsula, um, after the 1730 slave revolt there, the other part of that peninsula, when I think it was like the Danish or French took back over the island, like they called them back, or the Danish asked the French, I can't remember. But that whole peninsula of Coral Bay never it always stayed its own place, never got taken back over or anything, and it was, like, one of the oldest, like, communities, commune, or whatever you call it, in the Caribbean, because that it was just like, if you needed this and someone had it, then that's how it worked. Like, you read the history books and you get this really amazing sense of, like, the capabilities, making everything they need and sharing everything and really coming together and staying connected. And that's what I love about sort of the Caribbean is there's deep connection and roots that never will leave me,
Hmm.
and those connections are still, flowing and prevalent to this day, no matter how long we may not talk or, you know, it's back to family the second you see each other.
I've noticed this set of characteristics across other islands. I mean,
Yeah.
in the Sea Islands, there's a lot of West African culture from the Gullah Geechee people that have been preserved much more than other West African culture as you head west. But even when I was in Sardinia, the culture feels biblical. There's the book Guns, Germs, and Steel, where the author um, comes up with this hypothesis for the entire book, and I think his entire career's work based off the isolation of Papua New Guinea, that it's like these people are still living in the Stone Age, but there's something like immaculate about their culture because it's isolated, and it didn't get ruined by the rest of the world advancing through technology or imperialism in the same sense.
Yeah, it can really show you the simplicity of life without all the stuff if you just get rid of it. And if you can create it, life's rather simple. It's this ideology that we have about how to, like, you know, get all this stuff and what we need to do and societal pressures. But I mean, being here in James Island, a huge part of why I came here was because of those connections like you're talking about. And that, when I used to live in Martha's Vineyard, I felt that same
Mm.
sense of island there too. So that's always been my focus, is to try to live in areas like that, especially now that I've the choice. I'm not like, you gotta be in school here or during building my career, like I got to go take this job. I would always look at where the job was, but I didn't necessarily want to run a steakhouse in Naples, Florida. Not that I have anything against with it. That's where my family lived. Um, and that's where I would summer, or, which was like this completely night and day situation because I would be like in a tent, eating like soy dogs out of a can cold with like nutritional yeast sprouts and spike and then amino acids because my Bragg's amino acids, my mom wouldn't buy soy. Um, and, like, peeing in the bush and no no ta I didn't have a dining room table till I was, like, 9 years old, and then it just became my mom's, like, desk of papers for her children's store, but, she's like, "That's how I organize," and it's just, like, spread out papers all over the
My old
table.
man is the same way with the kitchen counters, and every time and he's a chef, and every time I go home to visit and I wanna cook dinner, it's like the first thing we have to do is, like, clear the kitchen counter off. You mentioned to me, and I don't know where this is gonna go, which excites me, but that you've got a story, and a lot of chefs that I know, myself including, do have a story like this, something that happened in the earlier days when you were coming up that taught you such a powerful lesson that it's almost become kind of like a personal parable, something that you use to tell a story or to teach a lesson.
Well, yeah, I think, growing up with not very much and sort of, like, feeling like it was my mom's choice, like, we didn't have to do this and, like, not really understanding why would someone choose that, it kind of created this side of me that was envious of others, and what they had, and, I go to my family's house in Naples and be going to Disney World and out to eat and going to the malls and movie theaters and all this crazy stuff that, you know, probably was a little overboard and not normal life for everyone in the States, but my perception was that that was life here, and everything seemed better when I was a kid. And so developing that, it kind of like made me where I think when I was younger, like I would if I wanted something, I would take it, like I would steal shit. And um, me and my group of little friends when we were little punks and we're like, between 12 and 14, like, we like, oh, the king of thieves things, like who can steal the most stuff from like, you know, businesses around. And it wasn't like crazy stuff. It was like, we were being bad, but, it was like stealing cigarettes through like the gate of like this one place that you could reach them when they were closed or like, late night going to the basketball courts and then, like getting some beers from a bar that you could like squeeze your tiny hand in. Like this is um and then I went to boarding school in California in Nevada City in between Lake Tahoe and Sacramento, and, it was a really cool school. It was a Quaker boarding school. We picked it collectively. I needed to get off the island. I kept getting into trouble and stuff, smoking pot, drinking, this is all around like between 12 and 14. I gave my mom a lot of stuff and made things hard, but, I was still a good kid and worked hard and, did my best in sports and in school, did well in sports and, did okay in school. Um, but I wanted to go somewhere else, and I was like, "California, surfing, we can be like California babes there or something." And, instead I went to, like, the foothills of the Sierra Mountains to a Quaker boarding school, and my mom really liked how it wasn't necessarily like, "This is how you have to act." It was more like everyone was treated as an individual, there was space for reflection, there was community, there was, you know, chores. We ran the campus with the teachers.
Hmm.
We didn't have like, people came in and like cut the lawns and moved and this was like 250 acres. But it was also a college prep school. And it was really cool, like the classes were like 15 to 20 people for sorry, the grades were like 15 to 20 people. These classes were not. Sometimes it'd be like 6 or 8 people, but you really got one-on-one attention. It really, like, connected me and focused me, and catered to sort of my learning style, which was, like, multi-layered. I really liked a multitude of the different styles, and there was a situation where we would get, like, brother and sister, and they would be, like, a previous student who you get assigned to, and they were, like, there to help you cope and, guide you through the school, and then you get, like, a counselor person who's sorta like your your guardian there. They didn't have rights like that, but they were like, who you could go to when things were hard, or, they bring you to their house once a month or once a week, once a month, and, like, make you dinner and stuff so you feel like home a little bit. And during holidays, we would go to um, people's houses sometimes. Like, I wouldn't really have anywhere to go. I didn't know anyone out there. So, like,
Wait, is this where we're starting to get to the okay?
yeah.
Because this is an insane fucking buildup.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be because
Oh, which
it
just lets me know that there's like, okay, in order to understand this,
it's not.
you have to like understand how we got
Yeah.
here.
The lesson's super important, and it's very self-revealing in terms of something that I feel very ashamed about.
I've known good amount about you. I consider you a dear friend, but the life that you've lived is crazy. I haven't met many people that have had so many different, I mean, like the chapters in your life. It's like, but anyway, all right.
Well,
I don't want to
and
stall
the
this.
point of
Go
all
ahead.
this is also so that you're getting the experience of how I would tell you, "Don't be an asshole," if you
Yes.
worked for me.
Okay. Yes. And that's kind of
Because
usually how
I would
this.
put this much energy and effort into it, and that's part of, like, a problem, but part of, like, a quality of me is I just pour myself everywhere, you know? And sometimes I don't have enough left for me, but
Okay.
it it gives me meaning in life, besides, even with my daughter and stuff. But so I went to Jamie Peterson's house for Thanksgiving. Now, Jamie Peterson, who is like my big brother there, um, his dad is a famous winemaker, and now he runs the company for Peterson Winery. Shout out to Peterson Winery, also a sponsor, hopefully. Um, so Jamie Peterson's family like lives in like pretty sick house in Hillsburg, California, right at the bottom of Napa Valley. And it was just amazing. Like, this house was so fancy, like, these guys had, like, stuff in their closets that they didn't even open from, like, 2 Christmases ago and stuff like that, and that's important, unfortunately. And I just had the time of my life. I learned about wine, I helped scrub bungs and bung holes of
Mhm.
the wine barrels. I learned that that's where that comes from with Beavis and Butthead, you know? Mhm. And I thought that was really funny, but I worked on the vineyard. We shot antique rifles. It was like my first time ever shooting a gun. And they had like tremendous amount of like safety and understanding behind it, and using them as tools and hunting. And so just like really good family. And then we had like this amazing dinner. Like, they brine their turkey, first brine turkey I ever
Mm.
had. My grandpa rest his soul, but he would make a dry turkey. Um, and so, like, this was just this miracle situation where it was just like this amazing vacation. I just felt like spoiled, and just so it was so great. And, like, the better side, or the worst side of me got a hold of me with envy and stuff like that. And, I was like packing up my stuff, and I was like, oh, there's no way they'll ever worry about this. They don't even care about this. They told me this, they've had this stuff for like years, they didn't even open it. So I put in like a CD player. I take a CD player from Jamie's older brother, I get a little choked up talking about it, but, and packed it in my suitcase.
Like a Walkman or
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, like a CD Walkman.
Like
Um,
40-second anti-skip, one of those great
9 yeah,
ones.
9 seconds. It was a good one. 40 seconds? Oh, that's better, never mind. I think it was like 9 s
I know when I
30
got the
seconds.
come up when I had a job and I saved up to get the 40-second skip, so when I was in the car
Yeah, you
in the
could just
back
roll
seat, man, I'll
with fancy
listen to
headphones.
my 36 chambers in peace.
So, like, I'm like, "Whatever." I don't even think about it. This is just, like, the shitty side of me in a way when I was younger, and not a huge part of my life, just an important part for this story. Um, Mostly I was doing stuff and, not just being an asshole. And we got back to boarding school and stuff and whatever, and, all of a sudden I get a knock on my cabin door, and it's Jamie, and, like, 15 other students. And he's, like, talking to me about it, and he's like I'm like, "Deny, deny, deny," you know? And he's like he set the whole thing up, and he's like, "So I just want you to know that we noticed that it wasn't there before you left, and I looked in your suitcase, and I saw it there, and I left it there so you could learn this lesson." So, it wasn't like, it's not like 15 kids outside, like, they were gonna kick my ass, but it was he was so wise beyond his years and such a good big brother in a way, um, that he really wanted to help me understand what I did to him and really make me feel embarrassed in front of people, catch me in the lie, really thoughtful and laid out, and very helpful. And that day forward, I never I my mentality switched that anything that I want in life, I'll have to work for. I don't expect it to get it lucky. I don't, so when I was 14, 15 at the time, I can't remember, but that was sort of like a pivot change in my life where the next 3 years of my life, I had days of isolation where I wouldn't go see anyone. I'd just stay in the same clothes, and all I was thinking about is who I wanna be as a person in life and what my values are. And those were the years that I really developed the core to my values and what I believe and what I wanna believe and how I wanna approach things, because it's not like just because I believe something doesn't mean it can't change. I'm always a student. But that would be my best example for some young, people that have worked for me that I've used to sort of, like, help them understand. So I've done the same thing to people. Like, I had someone, I won't name them, but they were my friend before they worked for me, and then they were taking advantage of me and altering their timesheets and doing this for a while, and I got wind of it. I did, like I'm like a detective. I went back, I looked at everything, and I found all the information, and I, you know, just let them walk right into it and said, "I know all of it, this is what you're doing. I'm not mad at you. I don't hate you," although Jamie didn't talk to me for, like, 3 years or longer.
Ooh,
For yeah, and it's like I
that
never I
sucks.
could that could have been a friend of mine for my whole life that I was very close with, and I definitely destroyed that, so it still weighs on me today. But in my example to this one individual is the same thing. Like, I don't want to hang out with you. I don't want to talk to you. Like, we're not, like, blocked. Is almost like like breaking up with someone where you just need that out of your life. And I really explained the whole situation to him, and set him up and let him walk into his own lies, and said, you know, you show this time and time again. You're this old. You have talent, you have the work, the capability to work hard and be successful. But if you just are always envious or always grabbing for more and not like asking or talking or showing why you deserve it or doing your own thing and taking your own risks, then you're never going to grow from this. So I hope that people learn and they
Mhm.
become better people for who they want to be. But
one of the things we're taught early on in our career is about our food cost. When we create that formula and it's a theory, we go, "Hey, this plate cost." There's a difference between a plate cost and a food cost, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's waste and there's spoilage and then there's theft. And theft is a bummer in our industry. You never see it coming because you build these families and you feel like there's loyalty and there's respect and there's camaraderie. It's always kinda like getting blindsided when you find out somebody's stealing from you.
Yeah, it
For
hurts.
it hurts, but I always try to think like you felt like you deserve more, so you'll just take it, just come talk to me. Like, this isn't a corporation,
Yeah, and
like,
how do you really, like, instill something that they're never gonna forget?
you've built something really dope, and I get the sense that you still, like, have so much more to contribute, but you've been at this for, like, 30 years as well, and you're still beaming with, like, passion and excitement and joy. I'm sure that there's been, like, plenty of trials and tribulations that way too many to talk about.
Yeah.
Um, but, like, what has kept you going, and how have you protected your passion, like, in this, rough business that really chews up and spits out a lot of people before they hit 30?
Yeah. Oh, you know, I think the way that I keep the fire ignited is by really putting my all into something and really committing to it to, like, see it out, and not just, like, see the fruition of it, but then, like, spend a whole 'nother part making sure it runs, and then a whole 'nother part making sure it sort of runs on its own without and once you've done your final tweaks. And I feel like that helps give me, like, satisfaction out of the project. Like, even if I'm, like, sort of not in a good situation with whether it's leadership or something, or, you know, a pivot or something that maybe they decided to do, trying to break away thoughtfully, keep what I built intact
Mhm.
still, so that I sort of have a legacy, at least. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
how many people, it's like, oh, I definitely have worked at places that aren't open anymore, and ran them as a chef and stuff. But even like that one, it was a failing steakhouse, and I came in and I made it profitable. It was just too late, and I got business back up and quality back up, but the owners were too far in debt. But really what I do is, once I've done that, then I make sure that I pivot and I redirect myself, and I don't, like, hole myself into something like, this is my identity. I'm passionate about it right now, so this is all I'm doing. I might be get I might be getting into something new and find new things that I'm passionate about. And passion comes and goes. What I'm trying to focus on is what I get excited about, and sort of like following that.
Dude, that's very similar to what I've done in especially the pivots. I think that sticking around and doing the same thing for too long is just gonna get boring and it's gonna burn you out. It's gonna fizzle out your passion. Like, burnout isn't always like that you're burnt fucking extra hard and crispy because you worked like 180 days in a row. Sometimes it's just like, I don't wanna do this anymore. I
Yeah.
as a chef, an employer, I really try to light a fire up under my own ass for my people, like, to make sure they don't get bored to the point where it's like, to be honest with them and say, you know, if you should probably, like, if you can stay with me here for 3 years and we'll try to, like, make progress happen on an annual basis. But 3 years is a real, like, that you probably can't learn anymore anywhere after 3 years at a job, right? So if somebody isn't offering you, like, ownership level, like, as a partner, like, you kinda gotta move on to protect your own passion, and that's put me in a position where I've lost great talent, so to speak, but it's the right thing to do, because you don't want to see these people not want to do it anymore.
Yeah, I wanna see them, like, you know, blow me out of the water, and I wanna see that because that means I did something good, like, it gives me a sense of accomplishment and, being a part of their journey in their life, just like I had people like that in my life, like, I mean, that's the other side is I came up in St. John was, like, always 10, 20 years behind, so, like, I was coming up under, like, the same types of chefs that people like Anthony Bourdain were coming up under, like, washed out Michelin star chefs that moved to the Caribbean, but still have the same mentality in the kitchen
You
and
talking about
work
maniacs? You come up
nuts.
under maniacs?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
hazing, burning, um, late nights, drinking, partying, burning the candle on both ends, um, but hardcore in the kitchen, no frills, no food that's rivals food today, in terms of quality and
Yeah.
execution and flavor profiles and ingenuity, um, still, and when I was then, I don't think I was like really realizing that. I think when I was younger, I was sort of like, this is what it is. I love it, like, oh yeah, get through the
Yeah,
rush.
you kind of fall
nine
in love
o'clock,
with
I get a
that.
beer and I'm
It's
gonna
insane.
scrub this down and I don't give a shit what I smell like because afterwards I'm going downtown Cruise Bay. I'm gonna drink some rum and cokes and play some darts at Quietmont and, fucking get it.
I think that that's so for young knuckleheads like ourselves, when you're coming up, you fall in love with that part of the culture if you're introduced into it. Like it was the same for me. And
Where everyone else was who was in the same thing, they were all there. So it was like, even if that wasn't your thing, you felt drawn to it just to connect. All we did after work and while we were drinking beers and hanging out
yeah,
playing darts was talk about work or cooking or
yeah.
food.
Well, and I think that that's what, I mean, that's why kitchens are pirate ships and it's like, or the island of misfit toys. Like we're all a bunch of fuck ups. But in order to have that longevity as well, you kind of do have to grow up and stop going out and partying
Yeah.
and start living clean. Kitchens are pirate ships, or the island of misfit toys. Like we're all just a bunch of fuck ups. And maybe that's not true across the board, but it feels like the kinds of kitchens that I fell in love with and you fell in love with were like that.
Yeah, and even
And
if you weren't a fuck up, like you pretended to be just to fit
yeah,
in.
maybe or that person didn't go out
Yeah.
afterwards, but and you or it could turn you into a fuck up,
Yeah.
but we had to grow up out of that and um become and I think that for those who don't grow up out of that, they end up getting out of the kitchen and getting out of the restaurant industry before 30, and I've seen it happen throughout my life. And there's people that were more talented than me that I thought would be great chefs.
Yeah.
And I've never done anything other than to aspire to be a good chef. And then I was like, I should try to be a really good chef. But it's crazy for me to think that I could be a great chef. But I'm learning that it's like the longer you're in it, the better you get, right? So the people that were way more talented and knowledgeable than me in my 20s, they're not doing it anymore because they burnt out.
Yeah, and they
They
had to
went too
pivot.
hard and they didn't grow up and they didn't stop partying and
Yeah, multitude of reasons too. Be like some of them family stuff. Like, I have a friend she's pivoted because she just had to go home and she couldn't deal with that pressure and had to take care of her family member and
mhm.
um
Well, you do have to figure out how to make it a career and not a lifestyle. And nobody tells you that because there's so many people out there that'll hang on by the fucking, you know, skin of their teeth and they'll stay in this business and they'll be like being a chef is a lifestyle and what that implies is that you do have to work every day and every holiday for the rest of your life and you will die on the line of a heart attack, and you will abuse alcohol and drugs, and you will eat dinner at 2 in the morning. And if
Mhm.
you subscribe to it and you force it to be a lifestyle versus saying at a certain point, hey, I'm the boss, I'm the proprietor. I need to figure out how to make this a healthy career for myself. And then I need to like be able to put my people in a line where they can progress into that as well. Otherwise, why are we doing this?
Yeah, I really, like, took my career where I felt like, I got a million offers before I was ready, and I really waited, and I made sure I had a really diverse background in terms of styles of operations and positions held, and, you know, eventually after I think it was the boutique luxury hotel that I was running, Martha's Vineyard, that's when I knew, like, now this is my drive. This is how I'm leveling up. Even then, I was leveling up for the future. And part of that is because of mentors I had. Like, I had some good mentors and they set me up to tell me, hey, you got to think about what the bigger picture is too, because you can't be on the line forever. And
Anybody you want to shout out?
Levon Wallace, um, Fuchs, my meat cutting teacher, Francois Vicchio, lot, the Reverend Michael Sullivan, Brady Lowe. I've had a lot of people influence me, a lot of great chefs, Michelin stars, and James Beard, and all that. And, they're all different, but specifically, I made sure that I like after culinary school, I went and got, a degree in legal studies with a focus on commercial real estate because if I'm going to own restaurants or if I'm going to get into real estate, I got to know more about it and have a good foundation.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah, minor in art history, my whole life I built stuff, in construction, whether it was like masonry, carpentry, cabinet building, stonework, framing, you name it. I it was like growing up for some people, they see like Alaska as everyone has to know how to do everything, like a Renaissance person kind of like,
Mhm.
and that foundation in the Caribbean of being able to fix a stove or, work on the HVAC, those things and my parents supporting me and helping fuel these things and creativity and looking at things in a different way all set me up to be able to do that in my career and say, hey, I'm not just gonna run this restaurant, like, here's this hospitality company that I'm the chef here, but I'm also consulting with my hospitality company, or I'm sitting on the executive committee, or I'm a partner with you, but I'm the operating chef partner. So, I called it the COO at the time, chef operating operator, owner in some situations, and I really found a lot of excitement on that. I found in those things that used to stress me out all the time, like what's your labor cost and why's your food cost this? Well, that's really not my food cost. Me sitting here trying to explain this to an accountant how I just bought this pork for $4 a pound, and now I've had it for 3 months and I've turned it into this gorgeous piece of charcuterie that market values $20 a pound for. If you ask me, and if you're accountant, now that is value of $20 a pound because I'm selling, you know, 2 ounces of it
Yeah.
for like
You're shaving
30
it.
bucks.
Yeah.
So like, where's my money in that time and energy and technique and my education and history that I put into my craft? Where do I get that back? Because I'm doing that and you don't have other people that can do that. So when we count this from now on, we count it at this cost. And by sitting on the executive committee, I was able to be influential in those decisions in front of the body of the people that controlled everything at the boutique luxury hotel.
Got it. Yeah, and it does get to a point with partners or bosses, etcetera, as a chef where, like, you're just sick of fucking wasting your energy trying to, like, educate people on the decisions that you're making, like, when you know they're right, where it's like
Yeah, and you're sick
because
of
you're
it.
also, like, a doer, like, it's like
Yeah, get
there's
shit done.
there's people that sit around and they talk about what they do and how they should do it, and that's not what chefs are. We show up to a list of things that we have to knock out every day before service. And then we have to like, then the show actually starts. So it can be very frustrating if you're expected to still be doing it all, right? Where it's like, you've got to be in the kitchen, you've got to run the kitchen, you've got to make sure that everything comes in, that it's right, that everybody shows up on time, and that their headspace is right, and that all the mise en place is ready for service.
Then
And
you
then,
also have to explain everything you're doing to your higher ups.
yeah,
And
it's just
I think
too
the other
much.
well, I think the layer to that onion, the additional layer and maybe the deeper layer to it is you were hired because of your skill sets, and they've seen you work now probably, at the beginning I can understand there's a lot of communication, but at some point if you want to grow an empire, you need to trust people and let them make their own fucking mistakes. And when they don't do that to you and they're second guessing it when you're the person who should be guiding and the point of contact about
Yeah,
it and having to literally explain every little detail, not because you shouldn't have to explain things, but we're talking about things that are insignificant, that are minute, and there should be a level of trust. And that's what really would fuck me up and hurt me
yeah,
and make me
and
not want to be passionate
yeah.
anymore.
Oh, and you're the one that's got to fix the fucking back door with the broken kickstand, or fix the fucking toilet that's not
Yeah,
flushing right,
because it's
because you
not
know
a
how to,
priority.
because you know how to do that.
Oh yeah.
You know it
Clean up.
matters.
Yeah.
The staff looks to you because you uphold the standards of the whole restaurant. And if it was left up to let's say, quote unquote, them, the fucking toilet's out of order for 3 weeks because they're not. So it's, yeah. And
Yeah, I think the
that's our next episode together. You will be a reoccurring character, and I think that there should just be a session where we vent about this stuff, because there'll be a lot of
well,
good.
and I think it's important, like with all those little things, like they shape how you handle them, and they are a part of the craft that is rarely looked at and really rarely understood or explained to young cooks coming up. And it's really important to understand how to handle yourself under these situations and how to take honor in the fact that you can do that and pride in it. And instead of maybe looking for like, well, I'm the chef, like you guys own the place, like get me a new fucking blender. It's like, you know, I can figure out how to get my own blender, not with my own money even. Like I'll work on a promotional thing, or I'll, you know, write maybe if you don't have a credit card. I remember when I was a young chef, like they would allow you to do petty cash. Well, sometimes I just get, you know, $300 worth of this, $300 worth of that, or $50 and go like a couple days, and all of a sudden I got what I need again. Workarounds, loopholes.
Stucci.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. That was like always the
I
reason
need
why I
my
like
tools,
law.
man. If I need something, I need it.
Yeah.
Like, period.
I'll buy it myself.
I don't run a kitchen without. That's just not the scene I want to set.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is.
If I really
know
need it
money
and they
is.
don't support it, then I will get it myself.
Yeah.
And it will be mine. And if it breaks, I will make them pay for it because that we were using it in the kitchen.
Right.
Or I'll eventually, and I'll keep the new one, or whatever. I think it's important that if you want to be who you want to be, there's also like a level of ability that you bring to the table and technique. Like, how many times have you had your own stuff in a kitchen
Always.
that's long, that like you never get back to?
I mean, I think it's just part of it.
It's your tools.
It's part of the, I'm giving this everything I have.
Yeah.
And I want it to be great. And you teach that by example.
Yeah. You put
And
it
you
upon
learned that
yourself
from people that showed up and showed out and brought everything they had. And
and
it's like,
spent those extra hours with you late at night,
Yeah.
or helped you with learning Excel inventory sheets,
well, that's how I came up. I want to learn how to do this. Let me come in early. Let me stay late. Let me come in on my day off when that's coming in, when that whole hog's coming in, so you can teach me how to break it
Yeah.
down. I don't get to learn how to do that if it's not on my station.
Yeah.
I have my own stuff to do. So,
make the
But
space
but
your own.
look, I want to get into the nitty gritty of what you're doing at Cutico right now because it's pretty complex. Like it took me literally 6 or 7 visits to fully wrap my head around all of what you're doing, and you're still building out the concept.
Yeah, I mean, we're ambitious. So,
You're I mean, and now I get it a little bit more. You're keeping yourself excited. You're not staying pigeonholed. I mean, on a foundational level, like it seems like the first thing that you did was mastered sourcing local and regional seafood, providing it to your entire community. I mean, whether it's directly in your shop or it's as a distributor to other chef-driven restaurants throughout the whole Charleston market. And I mean, like when somebody says that, it sounds kind of simple, or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what it sounds like to other people, but as somebody who knows how complex buying fish is, if you actually have standards, to be doing several steps along the the process, so to speak, where it's like you're sourcing wholesale and then you're breaking it down in-house, you're teaching people how to do that, how to handle fish, how to store fish, how to cook fish, how to serve fish, how to talk about fish, seafood in general. And then you're also supplying it to chefs with insanely high standards,
yeah.
which is actually probably easy for you because you have those same standards. That's a lot.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's not as bad as running a restaurant, even though I am, but, part of it's definitely has way more, like, moving parts and way more complexities, but part of the magic of it is I get to, like, dig my tentacles into the operation and, like, you know, micro adjust or major adjustments and really control the operation. And, being a chef, that's like your dream, you want full creative ability, and you'll never get it. You can have it at your house, but even in things you're doing, like there's some controlling factor almost.
Yeah, there's a
So it's
box you
like
have
there's
to
always
play in.
something, yeah.
If you're a smart business person, right? You have to
Well,
be aware of
maybe, I don't know
what
if we
that
are.
box
Yeah.
is.
But I think we are.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you try to continue to learn
yeah,
and
exactly. And
and you
that
realize, "Hey, I have a product in the market and this is what people expect it to be, so now I have to make sure that it is that."
yeah, and I knew coming to Charleston what I wanted to do. I just needed the right person to do it with. Not that everyone's like people obsess over the right person. Like there's always challenges. Like you gotta be good at working with other people in order to have successful partnerships. And you have to like really understand them and put a ton of energy into making them feel like they're a part of it. Because as chefs, we can just all consume something, and this is what brings people. This is what we do. This is our standards. And so with Cutico, I really wanted to find the right person, someone who was involved in commercial seafood wholesaler in Charleston. And I met my business partner um, at my old restaurant at the back door and bring me like soft shell crabs and oysters. And I had already had like a smokehouse and so I sort of diversified my operations in the Caribbean. Like I had a fine dining island to table, very intricate forage, um, sourcing that, you know, no pun intended, but Thomas Keller would even find difficult, especially in the Caribbean, being him. He would be, like it's you gotta be from there to be able to get access. Um, and to making salt on my property in Coral Bay where I built a tiny house.
Did your tiny house get featured on, like, TV?
I think like HGTV, like I don't know
HGTV?
if it was a feature or a full length, like non really conforming partnership of like build a house but do it on TV. Okay. Now make that look like it's 3 weeks further done in a day.
Alright. Sorry to
But
go off
we
on
did
that
it. It
tangent
was
because
so
that's just another
yeah, that's
fascinating, like the world's most interesting man,
you
ladies
could
and
go watch it
gentlemen.
on
Oh
HGTV,
yeah,
I
go
think
watch that
season 3,
episode.
episode 14.
Season 3, episode 14. Also,
It's,
I do got to give you a quick shout out on the softies, boy, because I thought I lost out on the soft shell crab season this year, and I had texted you on my birthday,
yeah,
May 14th, which is kind of late in the game for
we
softies.
had a good year this year.
And we had a good year. You set like the last two aside. Cass and I went through and had some fucking dank fried softy sandwiches with that nice hat of American cheese.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful part about Cutico, and that's something that I learned from the 4-acre property where it was more casual, was that I want to do something a little bit lowbrow. I wanna, like, do it execute it well, and I want a lot of technique behind it, but not, like, crazy amounts, and I want it simple, I want it to hit nostalgia. I want you to have your
Mhm.
fried options, but I really wanna focus on fresh options and butchery a little bit here and there and, you know,
Bro,
Cutico.
one of my favorite things to get at Cutico, especially when fucking Ian is working the fryer, shout outs to Ian,
Yeah.
is fucking fried halibut.
Yeah.
Because like halibut's not a species that you ever eat fried. It's
Yeah.
expensive.
It's like
And it's like the quintessential pan-seared entree fish at the high-end restaurant. But I fucking love halibut and
like a giant flounder.
I just see it gleaming in the case on ice. It's
Yeah,
glistening, it's
those
so fresh. And I'm like, yo, Ian, just fucking fry that up for me, bro.
like fancy
And
fish
let
and
me get some of
chips.
them chips. Yeah, oh, it's great, and your tartar is fucking great.
Thank
Um,
you.
you brought up relationships when you were talking about, finding that partner and saying that it's you have to be good at relationships. And I think that from what I've learned about your story is that you were brought into this world valuing that human relationship and the community, right? And that like the amount of relationships that you've built into Cutico, the amount of families that are being supported through your shop, whether that's the folks that come in to feed their families that beautiful local seafood, or it's the fishers that you're giving a marketplace to, or your cooks and your butchers that are learning like great skill set and a great culinary scene, right? Um,
Yeah.
these are all the hallmarks of community, and it's one of the most favorite things about what you do. For me, is that I feel like I'm truly going to a place for the community and that I'm part of it when I come to the shop.
Yeah, our motto is, "By the community, for the community." And
Hmm.
for Chris and I, we've really found that, and this is from me saying this, but I think I can say this for both of us, is that, you know, it's our love letter to James Island, and we wanna share that with the world. Um, and those are those big aspirations that we have. So,
One of the benchmarks of the good food movement that we talk about, as we get further into our career, right, is like what's our impact, and then you try to pay attention to that, and you try to improve upon that, you know, and it does seem like you're constantly raising the bar for yourself. You've got a new uh extension that you've been constructing for quite some time now. It's gonna be a dope crudo bar. I'm probably gonna get a job there washing dishes part-time
there's no
just
dishwasher.
so I can steal your recipes.
Yeah.
So, like, I
I
mean,
don't I don't
with
know.
that being said, like, what's the bigger picture here?
So, since the inception of it, like, we were working on this during the pandemic. Um, and I knew I wanted to do something with seafood and I wanted to have smoking and butchery and, like I loved the market scenes. I was like, I would love to do that, but like with a chef's perspective, doesn't always have to smell bad. And, you could have,
Mm,
doesn't like everything can look nice. And if you incorporate wholesale, then you can move a lot of product and you can have better demand and price points. And so, Chris was in wholesale and it made sense. And, we were able to just build that out. And I love wine. Like wine's been a big part of my life. Like I was talking about earlier with scrubbing bungs and bung holes on
Mhm.
Peterson Winery. Um, and people like Miles and Femi have really like drawn me down the rabbit hole of wine. And Mark Snyder, who is Angel Share in Brooklyn, and Red Hook Winery was another big person for me that took me down that rabbit hole. And so dope wine, crushable, goes well with seafood, chillable. You're not gonna find it at the grocery store. Most of it's biodynamic, sustainably grown, some form or fashion, and a lot of like really cool indigenous grapes to regions. And so for like 15 years, back when Digby and I were hanging out a lot, we always talked about crudo concepts. Like he really wanted to do something called like pepper and acid together, or, on our own or whatever. And, I've been thinking about a crudo concept for 15 years now, and you see some places doing it, but I wanna do something, just really balance out the property since it's all right there, create this seafood, emporium that's like Disney World, but for seafood and not like, just on our little small property that's so quaint and beautiful. But my point is I wanna make it an experience that's fully immersive and has lots of different components to it,
Mm.
from the market, wine, merch. We're making our own sustainable coolers that hold ice for 4 days, crush it, and made with recycled plastic, and that I'm in the cooler business now. Now, am I there yet? No, but the mentality of seeing the vision and understanding that there's more value to a business if you build something around it and around the community.
Mm.
So by having, these things and all these connected parts that sort of complete the seafood thing, but sort of like my mom taught me in life, just because something says it's organic doesn't mean it's good, or that they're honest.
Right.
So have
Or
your
there's
own
great stuff
standards
that's
and do your
not
vetting.
labeled organic, that it's
Yeah,
like
because it
small
doesn't even
scale
need to be organic. Or,
producers.
well, yeah, like what do you need there's no such thing as an organic, like for what is it? Like, it's like mushrooms. Like, what do you make an organic mushroom? What do you mean? You got mycelium in a sterilized substrate. Like, organic cremini mushrooms? Like, I'm pretty sure that's not really a thing. I could be
Yeah.
wrong, but you used organic material, but then you, like, basically boiled it to hell until there's nothing left on it, and it's just a substrate for the mycelium. It's not like it's
Mhm.
nutrient dense, because
Listen,
that's
dude,
sort of the amazing thing
you don't
about
want to go down
mycelium.
this rabbit hole
Yeah,
right now, dude, because that's
but
how, listen, that's how
vetting's
we're gonna end
important.
up with like The
And
Last of Us.
yeah,
We're gonna becoming cordyceps fucking zombies.
well, yeah, like
No, 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 but the rabbit
no,
hole about the food is true. I mean,
yeah,
you could, and the
so
argument could be made with seafood, right? That it's like wild caught does not imply sustainable.
yeah, and vice versa. So you got to know the company you're working with, and you got to understand their values, and you got to do vetting. So that's really where we wanted to give place, sort of like my mom taught me, where customers can come and they can trust in what they're getting without having to go through the vetting as much. And opening up the Crudo bar, we're also expanding a retail section where I've been working my whole life, but very diligently the last 5 years on figuring out what my very favorite 10 seafood is.
Mm,
And then having a selection of that you
bro.
can have there, take it to go. And then that's the other thing, a restaurant, like it's like, yeah, you could take to go food, but it's not really set up for it, or, you might have this piece of meat that's really sick that no one can get anywhere at any grocery store and you use it on your menu, but you have no market to sell it. Like for people that want to make it at home, like you're
Mm,
missing an opportunity there. If you're a retail store and you're selling 10 seafood, but then you're not also plating it at the store for people to try with like house pickles and
yeah,
olives and
yeah.
something crusty, then you're missing another sales opportunity. So how are you being creative? You know, my
Yeah.
my family was always in sales. My mom had a children's store. My uncle was, VP of a furniture commercial furniture corporation, massive one. But so I learned a lot of cool skills. My dad was a master at it. You know, he just talked to you till you bought something from him.
Dude, every time I leave Cutico, I'm fucking $373 lighter in my
Well,
bank
that's
account.
a good check average. I'm pretty sure it's not that high,
No,
but
it's not that high. No, it's not. It's
Mike
because I
Otto would be
start. It's
proud of me if that was.
yeah. I mean, I just it's very reasonably priced. My favorite place to go for lunch, definitely too, because I like to sit outside.
Yeah, I love that
And
little
the
quaintness
I
about it.
just what I like is that I know that I get what I pay for because the quality is top tier, and and that really matters because, like, at this point with dining out, food kinda costs the same everywhere, so it's like, "Cool, I'm just going to Cutico because I know it's fucking great." Now shout outs to Codfather because I will go to North Charleston for the Codfather.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty lucky in Charleston, you
Yeah.
know, and it's not just like that there's good food, it's a good chef community.
Yeah.
It's different than like places like Boston or New York, but still has a lot of similarities. I feel like Charleston specifically is like this birthplace of Southern hospitality. Like it's like I
100%.
really feel um an elevation to it in ways, like an execution to it. Like there's high standards here, and
There's a
even if
great
it's
restaurant
grits,
scene. There's a lot of cool kids, man, that just, like, they wanna work in a cool restaurant and they want it to matter. They want it to be good. I love that. Um, so it's time for my favorite question, okay, which is just something that I love to ask chefs because it's we never get asked this. We always get asked, like, "What's your fucking signature item?" And, like, it's like, "Well, for starters, I don't have that." "What do you mean?"
like hopefully that's not my signature item
But
still.
yeah, I know, right?
It's like, damn,
You don't
shit's still following me around.
what is that one dish that brings you back to center and satisfies your soul like nothing else?
For me, it's you know, it's my version of it, but it's basically what we had growing up was a very simple, quick dish to make for like, you know, 10 kids or 6 of us, however much, and we all ate a lot. But, it was mac and cheese, but it wasn't like your average one. It was, um, like if I just went on a standards mac and cheese, can of tuna fish, mayo, and like a frozen
Mm,
bag of, peas, carrots, and then usually there was like kidney beans or something in there. Then I would take it and I would put nutritional yeast on top and, spike, and then sometimes I would add a little squirt of ketchup to it, and now for me, it's that, but, like, so the reason why mayo happened was, like, we didn't ever have milk, really. So we would have butter and we put some of that in there, but mayo sort of, like, checks all the boxes and you got tuna fish in there, so it just made sense.
yeah.
And we'd probably put, like, a little water or something or soy milk, like, if we had, like, non-vanilla one because that's not good in it. Um, and we would make, that, and you can make it for a big family, and it had all your major food groups. Um, and now, like, I can't do, like, gluten stuff, but, like, I love this rice-made mac and cheese. I think it's, like, Goodles or something. And, there's really good, like, sustainably caught tuna sources and stuff now that I don't like tuna and water. Like, my mom had us have that our whole lives.
Mm,
But, like, I like tuna and olive oil,
okay.
and I dumped the whole thing in it
Mm,
because of the olive oil.
yeah.
And then, butter, the mayo, but now it's hot sauce, like Crystal hot sauce specifically is where I go.
Yeah, because
And
that's
then I
okay.
cut up carrots and boil them with the pasta, and I just cut them really thin so they get soft by the time they're done because you don't want, like, crunchy carrots in, like,
No.
something that's supposed to resemble this frozen soft carrot.
Yeah.
And then the real thing that just, like, no one had Spike anywhere I went when I was a kid.
What is that?
Spike is what my mom had through, like, she would do this co-op where she participated in this co-op with other, like, like-minded people on the island, and they would bring in like a 20-foot container or like something with like stuff that was really hard to get and it really niche. There was no website, there was no, internet at the time. And they would get this in and we would have it. And Spike was like at health food stores and it's like, Mrs. Dash or it's an all seasoning, but there's no salt in it. They just use dehydrated celery as its salt for it.
Okay.
And it's just got amazing specific flavor profile that nothing else tastes like in the world.
Dude, I've never had
And
Spike.
nutritional yeast. Well, we can have some.
Nice.
I'm hungry.
Nutritional yeast.
Yeah.
This is something that you grew up with.
Yeah.
Is this, do you think, because your mom's a hippie, or is this island?
She was a hippie. I wouldn't call her a hippie anymore, but
The nutritional
the
yeast.
nutritional yeast was because my mom was a hippie. Sorry, it just makes me think about it. I think it's been, my mom lives in Portugal now. So it's kind of hard because I don't get to see her that much. So I think there's deeper layers than I realize to the dish that satisfy my soul.
I love that this dish brought tears to your eye.
I didn't think it would. It's kind of silly and it's simple and it just makes me feel whole again. And it sticks to the meat too. It sticks to your bones, which I like when you want that,
Mhm.
So
Thanks so much for having us in your home, in
thank
your
you.
beautiful home,
Appreciate it.
and opening up and sharing such personal, intimate details, man.
Yeah, it's something I really want to do as much as I can because I feel like the more we share, the more we're, just being a part of our own story and recognizing how it shapes us and others around us.
Well, listen, if you're in the James Island, Charleston area, you got to go through Kudico. Shaun, when's the new Kudo shop open? Because you told me like October of 2024.
2 years ago?
Yeah.
That's opening.
When's it
2 years ago.
When's it gonna open?
2 years ago.
Okay, so
It's already open. It's
guys.
who knows? Like hopefully in like a month or two. I don't know.
Okay.
It's all like
So wait, hey, by the time this airs, it's probably open. Check it out.
Yep. Hopefully, if it's not, just come and make us open.
Actually, yeah, that's what this episode is all about. Is promoting the new Crudo shop, now open,
Yeah.
James Island.
Check us out. I'll probably be back there slicing some fish.
I'll be washing dishes.
Yeah. It'll be loading a under counter dishwasher.
Hey, man,
We'll keep it easy.
I like it.
Cool.
Well, thanks for tuning in, y'all. Repertoire is part of Heritage Radio Network, where we're on a mission to build a more sustainable and equitable food future. And your engagement is what keeps us going. If you dug today's episode, please hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, and heck, listen to our other shows. The Good Food Movement is all about community, and together we can make a meaningful impact.